A request for bill introductions. Anyone have any bills? Seeing none, we'll move on to the budget reports. We'll start out with the Public Health and Welfare Committee, and we'll start out with the Kansas Commission on Veterans Affairs. And committee members, I did hand you this testimony from the VFW. They were late in getting their request into the governor's office, so they were left out of the governor's budget. And just a little information on there where they're wanting to increase their share of the grant from 350 to 500,000. So it'd be $150,000 increase is what it would be. So I have an amendment if the committee would be willing to agree to that amendment. Senator McGinn.
So, Mr. Chairman, would you like to give the report first?
Yes, I'm going to. I just wanted to give you a heads up, so if you can look that over, if you have any questions, just we'll ascertain them then. I hate bringing these at the ninth hour, but that's why I always want to give everyone a heads up to look at them. So with that being said, I think what I'll do, I'll go ahead and start out with the Kansas Guardianship Program, which would allow you a little additional time to look at your information. Okay, we'll start out with the Kansas Guardianship Program. The agency submits a revised estimate of $1,403,875 all SGF for fiscal year 23. This is the same as the amount approved in 23. The agency requests 10 FTE positions, which is the same as 23. The governor concurred and the subcommittee concurs with the governor. Move on to 24. The agency requests $1,403,875 all SGF for fiscal year 24, which is the same as the agency's 23 revised estimate. The agency requests 10 FTE positions, which is the same as 23's revised estimates. The governor concurred and the House, the Senate, turn my page over, Senate concurred with the governor. Questions on 23 or 24? Seeing none, Senator Fagg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move we concur with the subcommittee recommendation on the Guardianship Program budget for FY 2023 and FY 2024. I did. Should I say that again? Okay. Got my mic on now. I move we concur with the subcommittee recommendation on the Kansas Guardianship Program budget for FY 2023 and 2024.
We have a motion. We have a second by Senator McGinn. Any questions? Senator Petty? No? Okay. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we'll move on to the Kansas Commission on Veterans Affairs. The agency submits a revised estimate of $31.9 million, including $12.2 million SGF for fiscal year 23. This is an increase of $4 million overall, including SGF decrease of $1.1 million above the 23 approved amount. Significant items, supplemental KVH salaries and wages. The agency's supplemental request for 2023 is an increase of $1,116,630 SGF to reduce shrinkage rates at the KVH. Per the agency, the KVH continues to operate periodically in a COVID-19 environment, which requires increased staffing, overtime, and to accommodate the COVID-19 wings and short-term staffing shortfalls. Commodities, the agency requests includes an increase in commodities of $433,073 for fiscal year '23. This is mainly due to a large increase in food, $277,513, other professional and scientific supplies and materials, $87,637, and drugs and pharmaceuticals of $52,758 at the KVH. Capital outlay, the agency request includes an increase in capital outlay of $297,348 for fiscal year '23. This is mainly for the purpose of trucks, $81,219, road and highway machinery and equipment, $56,433, and additional software, $73,811 at the KHS. Capital improvements, the agency request includes a revised estimate of $3.4 million, including $238,900 SGF, includes $2 million in reappropriated funds for fiscal year 2022. The estimate also includes 375 FTE positions, which is the same approved in '23. The governor recommends $32 million, including $11.7 million SGF for '23. This is an all-funds increase of $296,587 and a decrease of $552,580 SGF from the agency's '23 revised estimates. Significant items in the governor's recommendation. KVH salaries and wages, the governor recommendation includes a supplement of $500,000 SGF for supplemental salary and wages for KVH, for a total of $9.7 million for salaries and wages for KVH. This is a decrease of $616,630 below the agency's supplemental request in 2023. Capital outlay, the governor recommendation includes $672,336 SGF for capital outlay, which is an increase of $64,040 above the agency's '23 revised estimate. The additional $64,040 is for the purchase of 2 vehicles. The capital improvements, the governor recommendation includes $4.3 million for the capital improvements, which is an increase of $849,167 SIBF above the agency's '23 revised estimate. The increase is to pay for architectural design fees for the Northeast Kansas Veterans Home. The governor's recommendation also includes the 375 FTE positions, which is the same as 2023. And the committee concurs with the governor's recommendation. 23, questions on 23? Senator Petty.
Mr. Chairman, do you want to hold a discussion about the Veterans Claim Assistance Program till the end, or since it's could be part of 23 and 24 budget, or can we now?
I think we'll, yes, Beans, I think it would go, I think they were requesting for 23 also, so yes. I think we'll just go ahead and discuss the amendment. Committee, the amendment is to add $150,000 SGF for the Veterans Claims Assistance Program in fiscal year 23 and 24. And I hope you have enough information there. Are there questions on what the VFW is? Oh,
Second your amendment.
okay, we have a motion, a second. Are there questions on the VFW's material? Senator Petty.
I'll just add, because this, I did set on, I do set in public health and welfare, and this did not come up at that time, but the information has come forward since then. And just so you're aware, I did talk to the chair, Senator Gossage, about this very item, and she is supportive. But my understanding with the information that's been provided, and I think Senator Pittman might want to add something to this, is that with the changes that have been made in the PAC Act, It's really impacted the number of veterans that are bringing forth claims because it expanded territories that were not covered prior. And so in the BFW was prior to 22, they were getting like around 2,100 to 2,400 claims, and now it's up to 3,158. So they have been a substantial increase, and so they want to be able to address these claims in a timely manner, so they need the staff to do that.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Senator Pittman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just caught my eye. Sometimes I get a lot of questions about the Veterans Affairs Office budget, so I just wanted to make sure I understood this. And it just stuck out. I can ask later if that's appropriate, but we're acquiring road and highway machinery and equipment. I expect like, cemeteries and these types of things. Does anybody have an idea about why highway machinery and equipment?
It's just the category that it falls under, but you're correct. It's more like the mowers and cemetery. It's strictly cemetery. Other questions? Seeing none, Senator Fagg? Oh, that's just a minute. Yep.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the committee concur with the subcommittee. I move the committee concur with the subcommittee recommendation on the Kansas Commission of Veterans Affairs Office budget for FY 2023 with the following amendments. Add 150,000 SGF to the Veterans Claims Assistance Program for FY 2023.
We have a motion. We have a second by Senator Alley. Questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we'll do 2024. The agency requests $35.1 million, including $14.8 million SGF in expenditures for 2024. This is an increase of $3.1 million overall, including SGF increase of $2.6 million above the 23 revised estimate. Significant items: enhancement, salaries and wages. The agency's enhancement request regarding salaries for fiscal year 24 is an increase of $2.6 million SGF per the agency. This will help cover projected staff growth for KHS and KVH, as well as the current salaries within the Kansas Veterans Cemetery Program based on census and acuity levels. The optimal FTE positions for both programs will rise as well. The agency expects to be able to fill 11 FTE positions for KVH and 4 FTE positions for KSH in 2024, and this enhancement helps cover these salaries and wages. Enhancements, cemetery projects. The agency enhancements request also includes 6 enhancement projects for the Kansas Veterans Program for a total increase of $1.4 million SGF. These projects include a scattering garden wall at Fort Dodge, $35,000, an expansion project on the Columbarian Wall in Fort Dodge, $1.3 million, storage buildings and fence maintenance at Fort Dodge, $192,696, and adding doors to committal shelters at Fort Dodge and Walkeny, $90,000. Capital improvements, the agency request includes a revised estimate of $4.3 million, including $1.6 million SGF for fiscal year 24. This is an increase of $845,753. from the, or 24.7% from the fiscal year 23 revised estimate. The agency estimates 375 FTE positions, which is the same as in 23. Excuse me. The governor recommends 50.2 million, including 13.4 million SGF for fiscal year 24. This is an all funds increase of 15.1 million and an SGF decrease of 1.5 million from the agency's request in 24. Significant items in the governor's recommendations include the following: salaries and wages. The governor partially adopts the agency's enhancements in salaries and wages. The governor's recommendation includes 2.4 million for agency requests for salary shortfalls for KSH and KVH. The capital improvements, the governor recommendation includes 19.5 million from capital improvements, which is a decrease of 1.4 million SGF and an increase of 16 million SIBF above the agency's request in 24. The 24 revised estimate. The governor's recommendation includes 16.4 million SIBF to pay for the state's portion of the new Northeast Kansas Veterans Home. The governor also recommends the following 3 projects: adding doors to the committal shelters at Fort Dodge and at Walkeny, 90,000 SGF, storage building and fence maintenance at Fort Dodge, 192,696 SGF, and emergency repairs and maintenance for the 4 agency cemeteries, 28,980 SGF. The governor's recommendation does not include the capital improvement enhancements. Additional staff, the governor's recommendation includes 62,328 SGF for an additional FTE for senior administration assistant, and the agency estimates includes 376 FTE positions, 1 more than fiscal 23. The Senate Committee on Public Health and Welfare recommendation, the committee concurs with the governor's recommendation with the following adjustments: add 35,000 SGF for the scattering wall project at Fort Dodge in fiscal year 24, delete 62,000 SGF for 1 FTE position, senior administrative assistant for 24, and delete 44,000 for additional travel expense in fiscal year 24. Questions on 24? Senator Alley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The one position that you're suggesting we delete, the senior administrative assistant for 24, how many FTE positions are full? Do we know? I mean, we always ask that question, but 376 positions, we're asking for 1. Can they not absorb that?
Let me check. $275 are active. So you're probably right. They probably could absorb that pretty easily.
Absorb that within 100?
Looks to me like they
Thank you.
probably could. Other questions? Senator Petty.
I will say that we really had limited discussion about this, but as we look at the fact that that our Veterans Affairs Office will be dealing with building a new veterans nursing home, it does appear that the director would need this was a position that's going to be directly under him. So I think that's a thought to consider.
Other questions? Senator Petty.
I will just bring up, as you can see, there was a deletion of the additional travel expenses, and I'm a little bit concerned about the fact that with the increased interest of veterans for assistance, and also the fact that we are going to be building a new nursing home in the Topeka area, that might not increase the need for travel across the state to deal with veterans throughout the state who might be looking at this facility and their options. That's that 44,000. I don't know what the House did, but with this, but I think it is concerning to not think about the need for that.
The House did not address the travel expense because they have a global look at all travel expense, so they will be looking at that. So I guess if our position is 0, we'll negotiate with the House on theirs. So, any other questions? Yeah. Senator Fagg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got my microphone on this time, too. I move that the committee concur with the subcommittee's recommendation on the Kansas Commission of Veterans Affairs Office with the following amendments. We added 150,000 SGF to the Veterans Claims Assistance Program for FY 2024.
I have a motion. We have a second by Senator Alley. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we will have, yes, he made the motion for the whole thing, yeah, including the amendment. Next, we will have Transparency and Ethics Committee, Senator McGinn, Abstractors Board of Examiners.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is the Abstractors Board of Examiners, and we'll begin with 23. The agency submits a revised estimate, $25,717, all from the Abstractors Fee Fund, and expenditures for 23. This is the same amount approved by the 22 legislature. Governor concurs with the agency's estimate, and the Committee on Transparency and Ethics concurs with the governor's recommendation for 23. For 24, the agency requests $25,711, all from the Abstractors Fee Fund, in expenditures for year 24. This is a decrease of $6 or less than 0.1% below the revised estimate for 23. Governor concurs with the agency's request for 24, and the Senate committee concurs with the governor's recommendation for 24. Moving on to 25, the agency requests $25,723, all from the Abstractors Fee Fund, in expenditures for year 25. This is an increase of $12 or less than 0.1% above the amount requested for year 24. Governor concurs with the agency's request for 25, and the Senate committee concurs with the governor's recommendation for 25. There are no questions?
Questions? Seeing none?
I make a motion to approve the budget for the Abstractors Board of Examiners for 23, 24, and 25.
I have a second by Senator Alley. Questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we'll have the Board of Examiners for the optometric.
The Board of Examiners for Optometry is, the agency submits a revised estimate of $2,002,514, all from special revenue funds, and one FTE position for 23. Agency's revised estimate matches the amount approved for 22 legislature. Governor concurs with the agency's revised estimate for 23, and the Senate committee concurs with the governor's recommendation. Moving on to 24. The agency requests $208,258, all from special revenue funds, and 1 FTE position for 24. The increase is primarily attributable to computer programming services totaling $5,579, and other miscellaneous adjustments totaling $165. Governor concurs with the 24 request, and the Senate committee concurs with the governor's recommendation for 24. Moving on to 25, the agency requests $824, all from special revenue funds, and 2 FTE positions for 25. The agency's request includes an enhancement request totaling $34,456, all from special revenue funds, and an additional 1 FTE. Governor recommends expenditures for $212,368, all from special revenue funds, and 1 FTE for 25. The recommendation is a decrease of $34,456 and 1 FTE position below the 25 agency request because the governor does not recommend the agency's enhancement request. The committee concurs with the governor recommendation for 25 with the following adjustment. Add $34,456, all from special revenue funds, and 1 FTE position to allow the agency to hire a new executive director to train with the current executive officer for 6 months prior to the current executive officer's retirement in 25. I will add, had a note here, the situation here for them is that their executive director is retiring and does need 6 months to train her replacement. And they don't, they actually have good longevity for executive directors, but, so I just want to let everybody know that that is why the Senate committee put that back. And as soon as that individual is trained, they will come back with 1 FTE. Moving on to 24, the agency, let's see, I want to make sure, nope, that's dental board. Go back.
Yeah.
It's dental board.
You did them both, I think, didn't you? Yeah, I think you did them both. All 3 of them, I mean.
I'll check in here to see if I have 25. I think that's it. Yeah, okay. So I don't believe I did 25. Did I? It's green. Thank you.
Right.
It's the green sheet. The agency requests $246,824, all from special what?
You
Oh, I
did.
thought you said I didn't do it. Okay, okay. With that, Mr. Chairman, if there are no questions,
Any questions? Seeing none?
I make a motion to approve the Board of Examiners for optometry for 23, 24, and 25.
A motion, a second by Senator Alley. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we'll have the Kansas Dental Board. Senator McGinn.
Right there. All right. The Kansas Dental Board, the agency submits a revised estimate of $525,688, all from the Dental Board fee fund, and expenditures for 3 FTE positions for 23. This is the same amount approved for 23 by the 22 legislature. The agency increased contractual services by $1,432 and decreased salary and wages expenditures by the same amount. The decrease in salary and wages was due to lower than anticipated employer contributions for fringe benefits, and the increase in contractual services includes several different types of contractual services, including OITs, expenditures, and some rental charges. Governor concurs with the agency's revised estimate for 23, and the Senate committee concurs with the governor's recommendation for 23. And for 24, the agency requests $560,000, all from the Dental Board fee fund, in expenditures and 3 FTE positions for 24. This is an increase of $134,312, or 31.6% above the 23 revised estimate. The increase is attributable to a request to upgrade the agency's licensing system. The agency indicates that the existing system is on Microsoft Access and no longer supported. The agency request includes $130,000 to migrate the system to a cloud-based licensing vendor. In addition to the system upgrade, the agency's request includes increases in salaries and wages, expenditures totaling $2,283, primarily attributable to increased employer contributions to group health insurance. Other smaller adjustments are also included in the agency's 24 request. Governor concurs with the agency's 24 request, and the Senate committee concurs with the governor's recommendation for 24. Moving on to 25, the agency requests $565,000, all from the Dental Board Fee Fund. In expenditures, 3 FTE positions for 25. This is an increase of $5,000 or 0.9% above the 24 agency request. The increase is attributable to estimate costs for in-state travel, the state building capital charge, paper and other stationery, and employer contributions for fringe benefits. The agency request also includes ongoing expenditure for the enhanced licensing system, which is also included in the 24 estimate. The governor concurs with the agency's 25 request, and the committee concurs with the governor's recommendation for 25. Mr. Chairman, if there are no questions.
Questions? Seeing none? Senator Alley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. One question, the Microsoft Access, we're no longer supporting that. We're moving to a cloud-based licensing vendor, and it's $130,000 in 24. If we move to 25, is that the same $130,000 a renewable annual expense?
That would be a great question for the panelists. It's the same amount every year. It's the same amount, though. Okay, yes,
So that's an annual renewable expense every year?
that is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none, Senator McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I make a motion to approve the Kansas Dental Board for 23, 24, and 25.
I have a motion, second by Senator Alley. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Next, we'll have the Kansas Board of Hearing Aid Examiners. Senator McGinn.
All right, before I move on, I applaud the Dental Board for getting rid of Microsoft Access. Tried to do that a few times. All right. The Kansas Board of Hearing Aid Examiners, 423. The agency estimates revised estimate or expenditures of $34,010, all from special revenue fund in 23. This is an increase of $5,678 or 20% above the 22 actual amount. This increase is primarily in contractual services, specifically for increased web development costs and inflationary increase for the cost of printing, space rentals, and practical exams and travel. Governor concurs with the agency's estimate, and the Senate committee concurs with the governor's recommendation for 23. And you notice there's 0 FTEs. It's a weird deal. All right. For 24, the agency requests $39,695, all from the Hearing Aid Board Fee Fund. For 24, this is an increase of $3,685 or 10.8% above the 23 revised estimate. The increase is primarily attributable to the increase in contractual services for website development and transitioning to a full online renewal process. The agency requests no FTE positions. So they just, in case you're curious, they have less than a half-time person that does all this work. So, Governor concurs with the agency's request for 24, and the Senate committee concurs with the governor's recommendation. Moving on to 25, the agency requests $37,695, all from the Hearing Aid Board Fee Fund. For 25, this is the same amount for 24 requests. Governor concurs with the agency's request for 25, and the Senate committee concurs with the governor's recommendation for 25.
Any questions? Seeing none, Senator McGinn.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the budget for the Kansas Board of Hearing Aid Examiners for 23, 24, and 25.
I have a motion, second by Senator Alley. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Senator McGinn. Next, we'll have Federal and State Affairs Committee, Senator Fagg, Kansas Lottery.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When you pick up your Kansas Lottery on page 2 is where we're going to start the Senate Subcommittee report. There's some House stuff on the front page, so we can all get on the same spot here. Okay, this is for the Kansas Lottery. Agency estimate, the agency submits a revised estimate of $399.4 million, all from special revenue funds and expenditures and 95.0 FTE positions for FY 2023. This is an increase of $17.7 million or 4.6% above the FY 2023 approved amount. The majority of the increase is for the sports wagering management fee based on 90% of the net sports wagering revenue of $16.2 million. There are increases for adjustments to the consensus revenue estimate for the expanded lottery and revenue funds of $912,000, vendor fees for regular lottery ticket sales of $250,000, and salaries and wages of $287,821. The revised estimate includes an increase of $28,375 to replace 6 high-mileage vehicles for the sales department and expanded lottery. The total agency estimated the vehicle replacement at $145,875 in FY 2023. The governor's recommendation expenditures of $399 million, all from special revenue funds for FY 2023. This is a decrease of $408,959, or less than 0.1% below the agency's FY 2023 revised estimate. The decrease is entirely due to the decrease of salaries and wages and reduced funding for vacant positions to more accurately reflect the agency's actual expenditures. The recommendation of 95.0 FTE positions, which is the same as agency FY 2023 revised estimate. The Senate Committee on Federal and State Affairs recommendation, the committee concurs with the governor's recommendation for FY 2023. Is there any question?
Questions? Senator Alley.
Not so much a question, Mr. Chairman, but a comment. If I see the agency's estimate, this is an increase of $17.7 million above the 23 approved amount, and the majority of the increase is for sports wagering management fee, and this is $16.2 million. Are we really making any money on sports wagering?
I wondered the same thing when I seen it. It was like, did that question come up, Senator Fagg?
I don't think so.
Last year.
Senator Alley, that's based off the 10%, that number that they're coming up with. You know, as that money comes in, 90% one way, 10%, and it's based off of that. Okay, so when you actually look at this, the first money comes out, $750,000 goes to white collar crime fund, $21,000 problem gambling and addiction fund, $840,000 to attracting professional sports teams to Kansas fund, $189,000 to state gaming revenue fund. So, yep.
Any other questions? Seeing none, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This one is going to move to page 3 on the blue, so that you can start halfway down on that. Agency requests. The agency requests $439.6 million, all from special revenue funds and expenditures, and 95 FTE positions for FY 2024. This is an increase of $40.2 million, or 10%, above the FY 2023 revised estimate. The majority of the increase is for the sports wagering and management fee, $37.8 million, a revised expanded lottery gaming estimate of $2.1 million, and salaries and wages adjustment of $239,823. The request also makes operating adjustments totaling $276,643, including $239,823 for salary and wages. The governor recommends expenditures of $439 million, all from special revenue funds, in expenditures and 95 FTE positions for FY 2024. This is a decrease of $660,000, or 0.2%, below the agency's FY 2024 revised estimate. The recommendation deletes a request of 3% salary adjustment of $252,570 and decreases salary and wages to more accurately reflect filled positions of $408,321. The recommendation includes 95 FTE positions, which is the same as the agency request for FY 2024. The committee concurs with the governor's recommendation for FY 2024. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Seeing none, Senator Fagg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the committee concur with the subcommittee's recommendation on the Kansas Lottery budget for FY 2023 and FY 2024.
We have a motion. We have a second by Senator Alley. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we'll have the Kansas Racing and Gaming Commission. Senator Fagg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The agency estimate for, this is for 2023, submits a revised estimate of $11.1 million, all from special revenue funds, and 120.5 FTE positions in FY 2023. This is an increase of $1.9 million, or 20.5%, above the FY 2023 approved amount. The increase is primarily attributed to the agency supplemental requests for the regulation of historical horse racing machines at racetrack facilities in Sedgwick County, which is $885,610 and 13 FTE positions, and funding for 8 FTE positions approved by the 2022 legislature for FY 2023. To regulate sports wagering and historical racing machines, $1 million. Of these positions, 2 FTE positions would be assigned to regulate sports wagering at tribal casinos if any tribe enters into the sports wagering compact with the state. These expenditures support the implementation of 2022 SB 84 concerning sports wagering. The governor recommends $10.3 million, all from special revenue funds, and 107.5 FTE positions in FY 2023. This is a decrease of $885,000, or 7.9%, and 13 FTE positions below the agency's FY 2023 revised estimate. The funding and FTE position decreases are due to the governor's not recommending the agency historical racing supplemental request for FY 2023. Okay. So the committee concurs with the governor's recommendation for FY 2023. And I think I got a question. Anybody have any questions?
No, any questions on 23? Seeing none, please proceed.
Okay, so we're going to go to 24. This has the same kind of deal here, so you are going to go to page 2 for the Senate Subcommittee report. This is on the blue. The agency requests 11.7 million all from special revenue funds for FY 2024. This is an increase of 598,117 or 5.4% above the FY 2023 revised estimate. The increase is primarily attributed to the continued request for funding of 13 FTE positions to regulate historical racing machines of 483,283. This amount includes expenditures for salary wages of 415,283, contractual services of 160, and commodities of 8,000, and is partially offset by a decrease in capital outlay expenditures of 100,000. The Governor's recommends 10.4 million, all from special revenue funds, and 107.5 FTE positions in FY 2023. This is a decrease of 1.4 million, or 11.7%, and 13 FTE positions below the agency's FY 2024 request. The funding and FTE position decreases are due to the Governor not recommending the agency's historic horse racing enhancement request for FY 2024. The Governor's recommendation includes language that will allow that the racing operation program to charge parimutuel licensees the initial startup costs and registration costs for this industry in the event that any parimutuel racetracks are reopened for FY 2024. The committee concurs with the Governor's recommendation for FY 2024.
Question, Senator Alley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do we have a schedule on when that is going to open, or is it going to open, or do we know?
So, Senator Alley, there's been 6 inquiries, and there's applications out that should, by the end of the month.
Thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none, Senator Fagg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the committee concur with the subcommittee's recommendation on the Kansas Racing and Gaming Commission budget for FY 2023, FY 2024.
We have a motion, we have a second by Senator Alley. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Senator Fagg. Committee, next we'll have a hearing on Senate Bill 195, authorizing the Children's Cabinet to form a 501c3 for fundraising for the Dolly Parton Imagination Library Book Gifting Program. We'll have revisor overview with David Weiss, Office of Revisor of Statute. Welcome, committee, David.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, committee. Senate Bill 195 would authorize the Children's Cabinet to establish a 501c3. The board of directors of the nonprofit corporation would consist of the members of the Children's Cabinet, the executive director of the Children's Cabinet, and other directors designated by the Children's Cabinet. The purpose of this nonprofit corporation would be to receive gifts, donations, grants, and other monies, and engage in fundraising for fundraising projects for the benefit of the Dolly Parton Imagination Library Book Gifting Program to implement, develop, and promote and sustain reading by the children of Kansas. State agencies generally only have the power granted to them by statute, so when an agency wants to form one of these 501c3 nonprofits, they need statutory authority to do so. Currently, the State Fair Board has specific authority from the legislature to form a nonprofit pursuant to KSA 74-520A. And in 2021, the legislature also granted the Department of Corrections authority to form a nonprofit corporation. So this would just be another one of those specifically for the Children's Cabinet. The bill becomes effective on publication of the statute book, and I can stand for any questions.
Thank you.
I might also point out that there is a House version of this bill, House Bill 2191 in House Appropriations. They had a hearing on the bill last week, but as of today, they have not taken any action on the bill. But there is a House bill out there as well.
Thank you, David. Questions for David? Seeing none? Thank you, David. Next, we'll have proponents, Melissa Rooker, Executive Director of the Children's Cabinet. Melissa, welcome committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Happy to be here to describe our efforts to support the Dolly Parton Imagination Library Program of Kansas. 2 years ago, the legislature saw fit to name the cabinet as the state lead for the program. We have operated the program in the state for a number of years through local affiliated programs that are all required to be 501c3 nonprofit entities. So it's things like library foundations and United Way chapters and education foundations, and any number of nonprofit, and any nonprofit 501c3 could be a sponsor. Rotary is very supportive, rural electric co-ops in other states are supportive, et cetera. The cabinet's role is to be a co-funder of the program, and we are using a line item in the Children's Initiative Fund budget that derives the funding from the tobacco settlement funds that are part of our key fund transfer. We pay 50% of the cost of the program, and the local chapter pays 50% for the children enrolled in their service area. So to give you some context, for every child, the program costs $26 per year. It is the postage to mail the books, the cost of printing the books, and that is it. So for $13 a year, we share with the 13 that the local program pays, and we put one book a month at no cost to families in their mailbox. It is open to children from birth until their 5th birthday. Children receive The Little Engine That Could as their welcome to the program book, from no matter what their age is, because this is Dolly's favorite book, and the books arrive monthly. I brought this one specifically because this is how the books arrive. They're shrink wrapped, there's a mailing label on the back, and there's never any other literature of any kind included. The program prides itself on the integrity of their enrollment. They do not sell those mailing lists. This is a project that is very near and dear to Dolly's heart. So we're here with this bill request because we've been operating as the statewide program, but not quite in alignment with the requirements of the Dollywood Foundation. You have some testimony from the executive director of the Dollywood Foundation. The nonprofit status affords the program the most beneficial postage rates, and it would allow us to fundraise from the private sector and provide the charitable deduction to donors who might donate to the cause. So we are trying to foster the public-private partnership aspect of this program and begin to put together a long-term sustainability plan to ensure that we aren't enrolling children and then suddenly finding ourselves in a situation where we have to stop service and disappoint children in the state. So I am happy to stand for questions. I did include a map, a coverage map. When we took over as state lead, there were 30 additional counties that did not have a program. We have been working very steadily to make sure that we get every county enrolled with a local partner program. You can see we're making progress. We have 9 left that have no local partner and some partial coverage in certain key areas around the state. So I think this would help us expand our efforts.
Thank you, Melissa. So how long has the Children's Cabinet been doing this program?
2 years ago, there was a budget proviso that directed us to use federal funds to start the program. And then last year, the legislature established the line item in our budget so that we have the funding we need to sustain. And I will tell you, we will exceed that line item this year. And I've got funds that we can transfer to cover the cost to complete the funding for the year. We are asking for an increase in our budget for when that budget comes before you. The reason why is as we grow the program, the costs are rising, and that's actually, in this case, it's a good thing.
So how many books, like in a year, will you send out?
Great question. In Kansas, we currently have 48,820 children enrolled. So every month, that number of books is being mailed. That represents about 25% of the children in the age range eligible for the program. Our goal and the goal of the program overall is to reach 2/3 of eligible children enrolled. It is parental opt-in, so nobody is compelled to join. We hope to be able to get to the complete coverage of the state so that we can start doing some promotions to increase the reach of the program.
Thank you. Other questions? Senator Petty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Melissa, thanks for being here. And I did want to ask, so will Dolly Parton be here on March the 1st when we have our?
I wish. I will say that Dolly's tradition is to celebrate with states that reach full state coverage. So stay tuned. Our goal for 2023 is to get every corner of the state enrolled in the program.
Get those 9 counties. Maybe we'll have the facsimile of.
I'm bringing my
Got my
standee
picture
with me.
that before I will again. The $26 per child, so that just covers the printing and the postage. And so the other is 50% from the Children's Cabinet and 50% from the local affiliates that's involved with the program.
Correct. So we each fund $13 of that $26 a year. The cabinet staff is absorbing the work of the program, so there are no additional resources needed to operate the program. We get good support from the Dollywood Foundation, and the program it's actually a source of joy. It's great fun to know that we are helping kids foster a love of reading.
Just one follow-up. So the local affiliate then, they are responsible for the mailing out? No?
No, that's the contribution from the Dollywood Foundation. Is the major overhead of the program is absorbed by Dolly's work. They have a central, this program is so well set up, and I think they've been operating for about 25 years. She started it in her home county in Tennessee, and now it's all across America plus 5 other countries around the world. So they've got it going on. They arrange for the printing of all of the books. They have a mail house that packages things up, and so they are absorbing a share of the cost. We pay for the printing of the books Kansas children receive and the mailing for those books.
In the Dolly Parton organization, they select the reading list?
They have a national book selection committee made up of experts, so and all of this information is publicly available on their website.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
Next, did you have a question? Okay.
We will have a table on March 1st in the rotunda, and we'll have a display of the books that are often mailed. So thank you.
Great, thank you for your work. Next, we'll have Tanya Dorf-Bruner, Oral Health, Kansas. Tanya, welcome to committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Really, as Melissa said, this is just a joyful program, and I'm here on behalf of Oral Health Kansas to share our joy in this program. So again, my name is Tanya Dorf-Bruner. I'm the Executive Director of Oral Health Kansas. We certainly are here to support Senate Bill 195, and I want to share with you one of the impacts of how we've been using it as an organization, which you may find a surprise. Why is an oral health group talking about books? But it's part of what we do. And so I want to share part of the impact. So we, as an organization, support the Shawnee County Oral Health Coalition. It's a pretty robust group of volunteers here in Topeka that do a lot of outreach work. And since 2017, they've been working on a program called Brush Book Bed. This is a program that was developed by a model from the American Academy of Pediatrics in Chicago. What it does is it helps families of young kids age 0 to 3 establish a habit of or a routine of brushing your teeth, reading a book, and getting in bed at a regular time every day. We actually, with permission from AAP, we were able to adapt that program for community-based settings. And so with the Shawnee County Oral Health Coalition, we now work with Parents as Teachers programs, Head Start programs, and even local safety net dental clinics. What we do is we actually provide 1 or 2 books to the families. And we provide them with toothbrushing kits, and we provide them with education and kind of coaching through those home visiting programs. I was going to bring my copies of books like Melissa did, and I forgot, but the couple of the popular books we use are called Happy Teeth, called Potter the Otter Loves to Drink Water, just all kinds of fun stuff like that. So we focus on kind of oral health related books, but because we have limited funding, we're only able to provide 1 or 2 books for the families. So one of the things that the Shawnee County Coalition has been doing is referring families to join the Dolly Parton Imagination Library so that their families can build their home libraries. The families that our group specifically works with are low-income folks, and they don't tend to have a set of books already on hand for their kids. So the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, along with the education we provide about why a bedtime routine that includes reading a book is making a real big difference for those families. And there's hundreds of families just in Topeka that have done this. One of my coworkers has a 15-month-old son. He's a darling little boy named Braxton. He's been showing a real interest in books over the last several months, and because my coworker helps lead this Brush Book Bed program, she was interested in signing him up for the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. She has a Topeka address, but she lives over the county line in Jefferson County, and her local library, the Merida Nozaki Library, doesn't participate right now, so she was kind of dismayed to learn that, and so that's certainly one reason that Braxton is one good reason to be able to expand this statewide. I also want to share we're in the process of expanding this Brush Book Bed program statewide. We've got a little bit of funding from the Department of Health and Environment to do that. And one of the things we've been trying to do is make referrals to the Dolly Parton Library, and we haven't had as much success in some of the smaller communities as we've had in Topeka. So that's a big reason we stand in support of Senate Bill 195. It's going to help make Brush Book Bed even more successful. And we really look forward to the Children's Cabinet's success with the Dolly Parton Imagination Library and to kids like Braxton building their own home libraries and learning to love to read. So just happy to share that with you and happy to stand for any questions.
Thank you, Tanya. Questions? Seeing none, thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
Committee, I'd also point out we have written only from Nora Briggs, Executive Director of the Dollywood Foundation. With that, we will close our hearing. Committee, this is pretty non-controversial, and I'm just wondering if we want to go ahead and work this bill today. Senator McGinn.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to move Senate Bill 195 favorably out of committee.
Have a motion and a second by, or a question from Senator Fack. No, second, okay, I thought so. But, and could you make the motion to put it on the consent calendar? I think might be worthy of a consent, okay.
And I also make my motion to put it on the consent calendar.
And second by Senator Fagg. Any other questions or discussion?
That's why I was waving my hand.
Okay. Senator Petty wanted to second that, so it's double second. Okay. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next, we will have a hearing on Senate Bill 172, increasing the CAPERS lump sum death benefit from $4,000 to $6,000. We'll start with a revisor overview with David Weiss, Office of Revisor of Statutes. David, welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 172 would increase the amount of the lump sum death benefit for CAPERS and from $4,000 to $6,000, and this would apply to retirements of CAPERS, Kansas Police and Firemen's System, retirement system for judges, and the old state school retirement system. So this benefit does cover all retirements from under the CAPERS umbrella. Upon the death of a retirement, the lump sum benefit is paid by the retirement system to the retirement's beneficiary, or it can be assigned to a funeral establishment as directed by the retirement and filed with the system prior to the retirement's death. So it either goes to the beneficiary or to a funeral establishment. The bill would become effective on publication in the statute book. And I will point out that the $4,000 has been in place since 1993. It's been at that level for the last 30 years. Stand for any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for David? Senator Pittman.
David, any idea what the cost of a funeral is these days?
I do not. There may be others that can speak to that a little better than I can, so.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you, David. Next, we'll have an overview for Capers. Alan Conroy, Executive Director of Capers. Alan, welcome, committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning. As David, of course, has so adeptly explained, this will just increase the death benefit, which is paid to all Capers retirees, and that would include police and fire and judges, so state, school, and local on the Caper side, $4,000 to $6,000. Again, it's been in place since 1993. There are about close to 4,000 retirees who pass away each year, including police and fire and judges, and so the cost of actual paying that out is about $14 million a year. On the actuarial cost side, since it's granting a new benefit, there are kind of two parts. One, the increase in the unfunded liability for those members who are already retired. So this would, in effect, provide a new benefit for their beneficiaries in this case. The total increase in that, it's about $108 million, of which the state would be responsible for $79 million. That could either be paid in a single lump sum, or since it's an increase in benefit, it could be paid over 20 years. And so that annual cost, it's 0.11% on the employer contribution. So the state school group, that's a little less than $6 million a year for that. And then the cost going forward then for active and new members down the road, eventually for their beneficiaries, it gets out 2 decimal points. It's 0.02% for state school. That's only it's $900,000 a year. So the total annual cost then for the state school would be right at $7 million for those 20 years, and then it'd drop down to probably the $1 to $2 million range after that. Certainly be pleased to respond to any questions that you may have.
Any questions for Alan? Seeing none, thank you, Alan. Next, we'll have proponents. First, we'll have Senator McGinn.
And if, Mr. Chair, if I can just stay here, if that's
Sure.
okay. Thank you. I'll be brief. This came to me from a constituent, and I looked into it. I didn't know if it was something that the board could adjust or if it was in statute, and sure enough, it was in statute. As you can see, I'm not a big proponent of COLAs, but on this particular thing, the price has increased greatly. And to answer whoever's question it was, it's $7,000 to $11,000 is the research that we found for minimal burial kind of thing. So this does not actually cover the entire cost of a funeral. And I would just keep in mind this is a one-time final benefit. So I'll stand for questions at the appropriate time.
Questions for Senator McGinn? Senator Pittman.
Just curious, did you have any intent whether to have it over the 20-year time period or the lump sum up front to pay for the actuarial cost? Was there anything in the bill that would indicate one way or the other?
I have no intentions of how it's to be done. I would leave that up to the Capers board and the head of the Capers. So I think he explained that on his.
Yeah, he said there's
back
two
page.
options that we could go with. One, put it into the unfunded liability and pay for it each year, or pay for it all up front right now if we wanted to. I just didn't know if you had a desire one way or the other.
Don't.
And then the minimal funeral range was 7,000, so the difference they'd have to earn that.
To earn what? I'm sorry.
That was just a bad joke.
Oh, okay. All right. It's almost noon. No jokes allowed, so.
Other questions? Seeing none, thank you, Senator McGinn. Next, we'll have Pam Scott, the Kansas Funeral Directors Association. Pam, welcome to committee.
Good morning, Chairman Billinger and members of the committee. I am Pam Scott, Executive Director of the Kansas Funeral Directors Association. Our members are Kansas funeral establishments, funeral directors, and embalmers. We support increasing the lump sum death benefit from $4,000 to $6,000. Often the death benefit is assigned to the funeral home. It has to be done prior to death. And this is to assure that the benefits do go to the funeral home and the benefits are used, the death benefit is used to pay for the funeral if that's what the retirement wants to happen. Obviously, this has not been increased since 1993, but funeral expenses have gone up since 1993. And in my testimony, I provided some information. The National Funeral Directors Association does a study every few years to measure the median cost of an adult funeral, which for 2021 was $7,848. That doesn't include any cemetery expenses. For a full service and a cremation, the median cost is $6,970 in 2021. So again, these are medium prices. You can get a funeral for a lot more than that or a lot less than that. So that's really the only statistics that we keep concerning the cost of a funeral. Again, the increase in the death benefit would help families cover the funeral and burial costs so that they can provide a meaningful funeral service to their family. So I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you. Questions for Pam? Senator Fagg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your presentation, Pam. Cost of cremation, that's lower. You know, when you say 78, that kind of pulls it down. What would be the average cost for cremation in all the stuff to that? With the 78 number, you've got regular funerals in that too, don't you, embalming? How'd you
Well,
come up with 78?
In my testimony, I have what these cover, but you know, you can get a cremation for a lot less. This is a funeral with a cremation.
With the cremation.
Yeah, a cremation is less because you don't have to purchase a casket, although a lot of people do rent caskets to have a funeral service prior to the cremation, rather than having a cremation immediately after death.
Thank you.
Senator Kirshen. Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you, Pam. Appreciate you being here today. We also will have Timothy Graham, the Kansas National Education Association. Welcome, committee, Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I appreciate this opportunity to testify in support of Senate Bill 172. KNEA is proud to represent a large and active contingency of retired teachers and educators. As the cost of living rises for our retirees, and as you've heard, the cost of death continues to rise for our retirees, their benefits have remained stagnant for way too long. The CAPER's lump sum death benefit has not been adjusted since '93, as you've heard. It's time for an increase. So we appreciate the opportunity to support Senate Bill 172 that would represent that increase. We support this legislation as a small step in the big picture of making our members, which are teachers and educators, whole. We strongly support it with the following appeal. Should the contents of Senate Bill 172 become law, please don't misinterpret this as and I use the word worthy substitute for a COLA. I wish I wouldn't have used the word worthy. I'd say as a comparable substitute to a COLA. So, and a little housekeeping, if you don't mind putting that word in there. And I'm not trying to be sarcastic, but let me explain where I'm going with this. If you are of the opinion that a defined benefit pension plan shouldn't have a cost of living adjustment, then so be it. I mean, I understand that there are people that have that and that represent that argument and use that argument. But if you are of the opinion that a defined benefit plan or the CAPERS plan should have some sort of COLA, then I just want to give you an example of a dynamic that we're concerned of. All of you are, every year, have lots of groups, lots of individuals come before you and ask for a lot of things. And a lot of times those things are tied to money. And oftentimes when a group gets some sort of movement on their issue, and in this case, CAPERS retirees, there's an issue or a dynamic that's created that people believe that we took care of the retirees, and in this case, in 2023, so we don't have to take care of them next year or the year after that. So in other words, we've taken care of them. They may not even understand what this is. It may be misinterpreted as some sort of COLA, and then that group gets sent to the back of the line for, I don't know, however long. So please pass this, but at the same time, understand that we still would like to see some sort of COLA, and we want to make sure that this isn't represented as a substitute for a COLA. Thank you for your time, and I will
Thanks,
answer
Timothy.
questions.
Any questions? Senator Fagg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tim, thank you for your presentation. I don't know if this question is for you or Alan or somebody in the room here, but what percentage of beneficiaries of this $4,000 a day go to individuals and what percentage goes to a funeral home? That's a big deal because one way you pay taxes and the other way you don't. I don't think most people know that.
I don't have the answer to that.
That's something that I would find very interesting. Because for one to save after-tax dollars, that's the way you do it. So just want to put that out.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you, Tim.
Thank you very much.
Any opponents? I don't see any opponents. Neutral, we have Ernie Claudel, Kansas Coalition of Public Retirees. And Ernie, if you can be brief, this room needs to be used at 12 o'clock, and we're just pretty close.
That's my customary position, as being last on. Thank you for allowing me to come here. I do serve on the CAPERS board, and I must say that I do not represent the views of the CAPERS board or the trustees. I don't represent their position. I represent the position of the Kansas Coalition of Public Retirees. Testifying against such a bill like this would be filled with all kinds of pitfalls. And I want to say before I forget it, Senator Fagg, the organizations I'm involved with do everything possible we can to communicate to the membership what they need to do in order that they get that tax-free, okay? My concern, when I hit over here this year to begin working, the concern on both sides of the aisle and both sides of the building represented a number of things. A number of people who draw CAPERS or involve somebody in the CAPERS program have lots of interest. Tier 3, improving Tier 3, bringing aboard some of the folks that aren't in KP&F that would certainly logic would tell you should be. And then, of course, the thing that Tim mentioned, incidentally, the COLA bills that are presently on both sides of the House are the only bills that have no ongoing cost and are represented by a value that, an amount that will take care of the cost of the benefit for a lifetime, and endowment, if you will. So that's our concern following Tim. We just don't want to be in a position where this is seen as we gave you a carrot this year, so you go to the back of the line again. And I thank you for your time, and I would gladly stand for questions.
Thank you, Ernie. Any questions for Ernie? Seeing none, thank you for being here today. Apologize we run short on time.
No problem. Thanks, sir.
Committee, that concludes our work for today. We are adjourned.